The emotional flexibility that you're talking about, I made myself be curious. Oh, I wonder what it's going to look like on the other side of this. I wonder what I will have learned. I wonder what this is teaching me.
As humans, we experience a wide range of crazy emotions, and these emotions can come up during challenging times that seem to hit us out of nowhere. That's the purpose of this podcast, to teach you how to move through these difficult situations and harness these emotions that we feel to be able to create the life that you want. My name's Nathaniel Burke, and I'm the host of the Emotional Fitness Podcast. I hope you enjoy. Awesome, Myrna. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I don't think we haven't talked in a while, but last we spoke, you were running your own company, and now I want to catch up and just see what you're doing now, and maybe just dive into that because it sounds like it's pretty interesting. And on your profile, you talk about being a serial entrepreneur. So I'm curious on what that means to you. So maybe you want to dive into what you're doing right now, and we'll go from there.
I'm settling down to doing one thing, but we'll explain that later a bit more. I'm managing broker now of Chamberlain Property Group, and we have 3 offices, one in Penticton, Summerland, and West Kelowna.
Yeah.
I formerly owned Century 21 here, so that's sort of been my main career.
Yeah.
But what I've discovered that I do is I'm working on a business, the idea starts to go like that, as we crest the top, I start something else. And I never seem to give myself a break. I'm always like rolling through different ideas. And I'm not sure that's a great strategy, but it is my strategy. And just this week, I was talking to an entrepreneur out of Calgary, and I was saying, like, that's what you do. And he said, oh, that's what I do too. Like, he's always done that. And I think it's that need to always be doing something and being creative with it.
Right.
Like, while I was doing this, I also started a plant-based business. I'd created a add water and stir meat alternative, but I never recognized how tough that business world could be, like how difficult it is to get into stores, production, the safety requirements, all those sorts of things. But primarily, it's just that was a very different business. Like being in the real estate brokerage business, dealing with trust accounts and contracts all the time, I never lost any money. Like everybody always paid their bills. Not the same in the food industry. Right. So it was quite a eye-opening experience. But I come out of that with one thing for sure was daring greatly, willing to take a chance and try something completely new. So that was really positive. And then when I think about what I do now, one of the things I like about being an entrepreneur and working with people is that I'm always loved and appreciated and respected. Who doesn't want to work around people that love and respect and appreciate you? So it's an easy gig that way because there's not a lot of resistance, right? So that's what makes it fun for me, I think. And then in return, I get to love, respect, and appreciate them.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's super cool. And there's a lot I want to unpack there because I know you and some of your history. Maybe if you're open to it, let's starting just with your success at Century 21 and what made you successful there.
I was really, really clear about what I offered to my salespeople, and I believed my salespeople, they were my clients. People that wanted to buy and sell houses were their clients. So my audience, my clients were my salespeople and my admin and marketing teams. That's who I catered to. So my goal with my salespeople particularly was to remove their barriers to success. And barriers to success are getting good photos, doing a brochure, doing some social media, doing all the BS stuff that they don't find it easy to do but needs to be done. So we took that all away from them and did it for them so that they could spend their time working with buyers, working with sellers, doing higher value tasks. I always want people to do the highest value task they're capable of. That makes it much easier. So it's just a really simple philosophy because that's everything was looked at with that lens. How can I make their lives easier so that they can do more and accomplish more?
I love that. It's such an easy principle when you look at it like that. And it was something I just remembered that you actually distinctly remembered now that you said to me a while back, and I realized it was you that said it, but that when I asked you before, what made your company successful? And your answer was so brilliant, and I went, wow, it shocked me. And it was that I don't make my company successful. It's my employees make my company successful, is what you told me.
Oh, yeah.
And I went, huh. Because most people, especially entrepreneurs, it's like, oh, it's me, I'm the idea. But You said that, and there was it was funny, within that time span, there was like 2 or 3 other people that kind of said it all in a different way. And I went, wow, that makes sense.
Like all I do is provide the venue for people to be successful. Like I provide the environment.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about the model that I had with my brokerage and then with Chamberlain Property Group now, Kirk, who's the owner, Kirk Chamberlain, he has the same model sort of on steroids. Like he's taken it to the next level. So it's really cool to be in an environment of high producing people that have camaraderie, and there's an ebb and a flow, and there's joking and fun and hard work and playing hard. So it's really, really fun to be in that kind of environment. But again, he recognized without the people, we have nothing. Like without the admin team, the salespeople don't do as well. Without the salespeople, the admin team have nothing to do. So like it's symbiotic and everybody's respected.
I like that. I didn't think we were going to dive into this early, but I like it. Is how do you create that respect then amongst each other? Because I've seen that in a few different workplaces where it's like, well, I do this and my job's important, and I do this and my job's important, and both people want to point the finger at each other and say it's your fault and can't come together. Yeah, so how do you help create an environment like that then?
So if something was going like adversarial, okay, I don't care whose fault it was. I just care that we solve the problem. So let's just solve the problem. And then maybe we'll look back and see if there's some systems we could improve on. But we're not going to point fingers. It's about solving the problem and learning from it. There's a method of thinking called appreciative inquiry. Like, and it's a way of looking forward instead of looking backwards at when something's gone amiss. So what did I do right? What did I learn, and what will I do different next time? So I use that model a lot.
Right.
So it's just because it's forward looking, and what it does is it creates neural pathways in your brain so that you imprint the what you're going to do right next time. So there's a guy named Lou Tice. He did this a different way. He was originally a high school football coach out of Seattle, I believe.
Okay, cool.
Okay, and he's since passed away. A lovely, lovely man. But when he was a high school football coach, he would show his team all the plays they made mistakes, and they kept making the same mistakes. So when he showed his team the plays that they did right, they did more of the right stuff.
Yes.
So it's sort of a model of appreciative inquiry again. Like figure out what are you doing right, because what are you doing wrong? Like if you're busy, and if you're busy doing a whole bunch of things right, you don't have time to do things wrong.
That's a good point.
You're just busy doing things right.
And you know what? That's something too I've also heard is like, it's if you ignore the positive behavior, people aren't going to want to do it.
No.
And if you only ever address the negative behavior and that's all you're doing, it's like you're just creating an environment that's going to repeat that. Yeah. Versus just reinforcing that positive behavior. Like, hey, here's all these good things you guys are doing. Yeah. And then creating that idea or that psychology of like, right, this is where I want to go. Yeah. Right. We want to continue to do this and evolve. So that's actually really, so what are the 3 steps again? One more time.
What did I do right? Okay. What did I learn from this experience, and what will I do different next time? Okay, so let's think of an example. Yeah. This is a bit of a convoluted example. My sister has a brain injury, and my nieces lived with me for a while. And my nieces went back to stay with their mom, and because she has a brain injury, she doesn't necessarily remember that they were leaving in such and such a day. So when the day came for them to leave from visiting their mom, everything blew up because she'd forgotten or whatever. And so the girls ended up staying a day longer, complicated everything for getting back to school, blah, blah, blah. So when the girls got back, I talked to me and said, so what did you do right? What did they do right? They listened to their mom. They stayed an extra day. That was honorable, right? What did they learn? That she needs to be reminded and constantly reminded that we're going to leave, so she's not upset about it. Yeah. What will you do different next time? We'll write it on the calendar. We'll make it front and center. We'll talk to her about it more so that she remembers that when we're ready to leave, she's ready for us to leave instead of feeling like it was sprung on her. Right. Yeah. So what did they do right? What did they learn, and what would they do different? So I like that. Yeah. And that's
forward looking. It's such an easy principle that you can apply to sports. You can apply to relationships,
kids.
You can apply to kids. You can apply to business. You can
apply to shopping.
Yeah,
getting bad service.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for paying attention to me. I've learned that next time I need to give you. I need to call to make sure your store's open. And what will I do different next time? I'll look it up on Google and make sure you're open. I don't know what, but again, just so simple.
It's so simple, and that's a really good one. And definitely, I'm going to use that and adopt that. So thank you.
Okay, good.
That's super cool. So I want to kind of dive into some of the emotional stuff. So I rebranded to the Emotional Fitness Podcast because doing anything different, taking chances, creating anything new.
Yeah.
And whether it be relationships and building relationships you want, or building a business, or even being an athlete, it requires you to have emotional flexibility, be able to handle life's hard moments. So when you hear the phrase like emotional fitness, what does that mean to you? And what are some things that you do to foster that, to be able to handle these ups and downs of life? Because like you said, you've had some wins, which is amazing, but you've also had some losses, as everybody does.
Like I think about the time I really knew you. I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Okay, wow.
Okay. And I was diagnosed. My marriage of 30 years ended on Tuesday, and on Thursday I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So it was like kind of an interesting week.
Yeah, that's a rough week.
And so, and then I had to go through a bunch of surgeries and, blah, blah, blah stuff. But what was really interesting is like when I'd be laying in bed alone, freaking out in the middle of the night, I just developed a mantra about being, I'm so blessed. I am so blessed. And the emotional flexibility that you're talking about, I made myself be curious. Oh, I wonder what it's going to look like on the other side of this. I wonder what I will have learned. I wonder what this is teaching me. And like your brain is always going. So that's what I'd fill my brain with. I'm so blessed. What does it look like on the other side? What am I going to learn? And I would just, those thoughts just created neural pathways in my brain over and over and over again, because I had to keep out the thoughts of fear.
Right. That's so good. And it's funny because that was my next question is, have you ever had the podcast before was called Kicked in the Junk, because life hits us with these hard moments like it was a good swift kick.
It was a really swift kick, and it was like I perceive myself as healthy. I still think I'm perfectly healthy and have nothing wrong with me. Like I'm surprised. Yeah. I've said to people, I don't know why you're like, I don't cost the medical system anything. And then I go, oh yeah, how many surgeries did I have? Blah blah. Oh yeah, I forget. Once it's gone, I also have a really good ability to forget the hard times.
Right. And there's something wonderful about it, but it sounds like you're taking lessons from it.
Yeah, forget the hard times, but project. Like even like I used to run a fair bit, and I'd project like I didn't want to run. Like the first 5-10 minutes just sucks, right?
Yeah.
And I would just project what I was going to feel like when I was done the run, and that's all I cared about. What was I going to feel like when I was done? Because I don't feel like doing this right now. So with everything, a year like this difficult time I've gone with the business that didn't go so well. I just think, I wonder what it's going to look like a year from now. What will I learned? What will I have forgotten? What will just not matter anymore? Yeah.
That's really good. And you said it before, is the curiosity.
Staying curious, is a really...
Even just in your own thoughts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because how often do you have, or people have these thoughts that just pop up out of nowhere, unquestioned, and you just believe it.
Yeah.
They say it's like, 90 or 60% of your thoughts are disempowering. And they're normally, not just your thoughts, but your belief system is disempowering. So if that's the case, and that's created by the people around you, and you're never questioning it. You
have to change your thoughts. You have to here I am with cancer. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am curious about this. And I never I never did things like go to Dr. Google, because I thought that'll send me down some rabbit holes I don't want to go down. That's smart. I don't want to know, because I'll find out about it after. Yeah. Yeah. I got really good at watching my doctor's faces when I had what I thought were really good ideas about how to take care of the problem, and their faces would go a little bit sour. I'd go, oh, okay. Maybe that's not such a good idea.
I love it, but you know what? All of it was addressed with a positive lens, it sounds like. It was, because there was nothing I could do about it. I could do what I could do about it. I did whatever I could. There's nothing I could do about the fact that I had the diagnosis. In fact, one of the things I did too is I never said, and I don't know if I said it just now, it'd be interesting when you go back and listen to it. I never said I have cancer. I always said I've been diagnosed with cancer. And I don't know, they know a whole lot more about me, about it than I do. So I've been diagnosed, I choose to believe them, but I never owned having cancer. I owned being diagnosed with cancer. That's so big, and that ties into a lot of the subconscious programming. Yeah. You've probably heard this, but whatever you attach to words like I am, I am
Oh.
a cancer victim.
Oh, if someone says I'm a cancer survivor, I just go, pardon me, but bullshit. Whatever.
Right.
Like whatever. I'm a person now. I had that. It's
Yeah.
gone. I'm good. Life moves on.
Totally, but you understand the power of that. And I think a lot of the times that I've been there, and I'm sure you've been there when you were previously, is like when you, I'm this or all this, and you start kind of just putting these labels on yourself, creating this disempowering thing. And it sounds like you've been able to step away from that.
Yeah, and like people say things to themselves. Because I've asked some people sometimes, what are you saying right now to yourself? What's going on in your inside voice? And they say things like, "Oh, I'm just so stupid. How could I ever do that?"
Right.
Whereas when something goes south of me, for the most part, not all the time, I'd say, "Well, that was a stupid thing to do." So I put it outside myself. I don't say I am so stupid. I'd say that was a stupid thing to do. I put it. I don't own it. I don't want to own it.
I love that because it's so little.
It's little.
It's just that like little. It's like a 2% shift. It's that like, okay, well, it's still there. I'm not saying like, oh, it's rainbows and butterflies and nothing happened and woo.
Yeah.
It's just that action
happened.
That event wasn't good.
And then so again, what did I do right? What would I do different? What would I learn, right?
That's really cool. And again, easy to adopt. Easy for anybody to just take a second and address that. So while we're on this vein, is there any other techniques, habits that you do every day to make sure that you can address these things in a positive way or with that light? Because again, when you're getting stressed out or whatever, it's really easy to flip to old habits. So what do you do to make sure that you can stay at that level?
I have ADHD,
okay,
which I didn't know till like 10 years ago. I just thought everybody was like me. So I make things like sort of like have red lines. Like for example, my fitness. If I have to exercise at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it isn't happening. So like just get over that. So like a rule is I roll out of bed, go to the bathroom, my sweats are there, my running shoes are there, everything's there, and I put them on. And then, I got them on. And some days I got, and so some days it's really hard. Okay, I've got them on. Okay. I can walk to the top of the stairs. Okay. I've walked downstairs to my gym. Okay, now if I'm not going to do it, I have to walk back up again. Okay, so I'll walk the extra, like literally I go through all those steps. Okay, I'm at the gym, I'm sitting here, okay. I'll find a good, I might as well do something. I'll find a good show on YouTube or something, and then I'll sit on my rowing machine and I'll have a plan. And I have a plan for every day, so I don't need to think about, how far should I go today? Because then I'm whimsical and I can do anything. No, I have a plan because otherwise I will be whimsical. So I set myself structures. So and some non-negotiables, and that's. And I got to do once I've got my sweats on, I've got to do something, and I can't get dressed into my real clothes until I've done something. So, okay, I better do something so I can get into my real clothes and get on with my day.
Yeah, I like that. It's very you seem to have these like theme of like breaking down. I want to say like breaking down good habits and like
breaking to the component
into
parts.
Like very simple. Like I put on my shoes. Once I put on my shoes, then I gotta go down the stairs. And then it's just like it's a tiny check. It's a long checklist. But if you think about it from like a psychological standpoint, if you're constantly, I did this today. It's like, I'm winning.
I'm winning.
So, if I'm winning, I might as well keep going.
Exactly. I'm already downstairs. I don't want to walk up again.
Yeah.
Another thing I did years ago when I started running is I'd plant a seed in my head before I'd go to sleep.
Yes.
Okay, so I plant a seed. And so I'd wake up and my first words, the seed would come to me and the seed was, "It's okay, Myrna. You don't need to get up. But if you don't, everything stays the same."
Yeah.
And and I'd roll out of bed.
That's true.
Yeah. But I had to plant that. So being my own coach, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of the saying, it's like if nothing changes, well then
nothing changes.
Nothing changes. So you have to.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, I'm up. And then again, I got the shoes on. Okay, I'm out the door. I might as well just start moving, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's super good and definitely something that anybody can adopt.
Anybody can, and just making yourself accountable to do it. Like I've got my shoes on. I got my sweats on. I have to do something. I can't do anything else. I got to do something before I can get out of my sweats.
Right. Yeah, I like that. And you kind of breezed over it earlier, but I think it's so critical is have a plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you have a plan, and I know I have a gym here at my house, and me and my wife work out every morning. But there's been times when we don't have a plan, and guess what? We're sitting there we're 15 minutes in and I still haven't done anything because I'm trying to figure out what I wanted to do.
That's why, like, my gym clothes are literally out. Like, I don't want to decide which sweats I'm wearing today. No, they're out.
Less decision making,
Yeah,
less
I don't.
energy.
Less energy into, because then I can. Oh, what about these? Oh no, I don't like those today. You know, like that. Those are all distractions. So I take away the distractions. I never used to think this because I like freedom and being whimsical because it's way more fun. But one of the things I've learned is systems set me free. Right, the system of getting ready to go to the gym every sets me free. The system of being able to coach and mentor people sets me free. And in that case, going down that vein for creates a safe environment for them too, because they know that I'm not, that I'm consistently going to probably behave that way. I'm not going to blow up. I'm not going to flip out at them. Things like that. That then the safer the environment is, the more risks they're prepared to take. The better they're prepared to perform.
Systems set me free.
Systems set me free.
Yeah, you know what? And when you say systems, I think of like it's systems for yourself. It's systems to set up your day, your life, and. I mean, how do you change your life? How do you create a life you want? Well, it starts at one day at a time. Sometimes even an hour at a time.
And sometimes it's a minute.
Yeah. Right.
Like someone just thinking for a minute. Do I really want to do this? Do I really want to buy this? Yeah. Just do I? Okay, walk away and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm hungry today. Do I really want to stop at the
Oh yeah, like I never buy microwave popcorn or anything, because if I want popcorn, I gotta make it from scratch. Yeah. And I don't want to clean up the mess. So, okay.
So you made popcorn once.
Yeah. I don't want to clean up the mess. So I'm like, again, not going to buy microwave popcorn. That's way too easy.
Yeah.
Way too easy. Yeah.
You know what? I've heard that before. It's like, how do you change a habit? It's you create just levels of difficulty. Yeah. Right? To the things that you don't want. Yeah. And it kind of reminded me of another one. I'm reading this Dean Graziosi book. It's really good. I'm trying to remember the name. Success Habits of a Millionaire. And he talks about that as like, people have a to-do list, which is great. Make a not to-do list. And that's what kind of reminded me of, is like, oh, well, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. So you just know it's like, okay, well, if I'm not doing these things, I have to fill my time.
Like, well, yeah, what am I going to fill it with?
Well, what am I going to fill it with? If I'm not going on social media and scroll hole and doing useless tasks, what am I going to do? Yeah. Well, I have to do this stuff. I have to do the important stuff. And it ties into the business stuff you're talking about. Take away those tasks that you don't want those people doing. And it's somebody,
and get people to do the tasks and that they're good at, and get me doing the tasks that I'm good at.
Yeah.
I've had this envelope full of receipts like forever that I just hate doing Excel sheets. And it's hanging around there. So this young lady was at the office yesterday and she's super good at Excel. I said, so will you just take these home and do them? And I'm thinking, because for me, that's a day job.
Yeah.
Within an hour and a half, she had them back at me. I'm going, why did I take so long thinking I had to do this instead of hiring somebody? And the file folder, strangely enough, had $30 cash in it. So I just said, we'll take the $30. There we go. Yeah. Like, why did I take 2 years to do that when I could have just got somebody with some skills to do it easily for me? And it's been like what I call a toleration, hanging on my back. Got to get it done. Got to get it done. Yeah. And all I need to do is ask her.
And, it reminds me of it's one of the habits. I keep reading these books and they talk about, building your team, right? And but it's just utilizing them, because if that's where she excels, this person, let's say she excels at that and that's what she loves, it's almost like you're, oh no, I'll do it. And it's like, no, but I want to, she could be sitting there going like, I love doing these tasks.
Yeah. And I'm punishing her. I'm taking away her value. Yeah, exactly.
So using this team is and bringing on people that have those strengths.
Yeah.
So, now that we're kind of on that vein, let's talk about how you manage and create the team that you have and coach those people. So, because you have a lot of veterans, you said, a lot of people that have been doing it a while, and it's different than coaching and helping a lot of people that are newer in the game. So how do you do that, and what are some things you do to create an environment?
Well, for example, with the admin team, and like this is something I've done in my past, and I'll show it to you sometimes. I don't know that I have, but I have always used DISC behavioral psychology profiles.
Okay.
And so I do how people do it, they do, and why they do. And then when I can find that out by getting them to do these surveys that take 20 minutes.
I think I've seen those. Yeah.
You've seen those. And then I try to slot them into those. Like, we obviously just don't do it. We talk about it. But like, we have one person at the office, super good at party planning.
Yeah.
Super good at taking care of making sure the kitchen rolls and everything. Like, why would I ask her to do an Excel sheet when she's super good at that other stuff?
Right. Yep.
So I rely on those, and I get affirmation from them about those, and then try to delegate the work accordingly for primarily with the admin team on that, so that they
Very
get to
cool.
do what's important to them and where they feel valued. Yeah.
I don't think that's done enough.
I don't think it is either. It's
I
just
think
like this is
certain
the
cultures
job.
do it.
Yeah.
Or cultures, sorry, certain like
Organizations.
industries.
Yeah.
Certain organizations, I think is probably more accurate.
Yeah.
That do it, but I don't think it's done enough, because I've seen multiple scenarios where people are trying to do multiple different things, and it doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. And we put people in positions where they're going to fail. Like I remember I used to do these a lot, like, and this one organization I worked with, they would promote people because they had good experience and they would be the team leader. Well, when you look at their profile, the last thing they want to be is a leader. They want to be collaborative and just work with everybody. They want to be one of the crowd. And they would inevitably fail. And so, but how do they fail? Because now they've been promoted to be team leader. They've got a raise. They're not doing well. Do they leave the organization? Do they go back to where they were? Do they lose that raise that they got? Do they shove and push themselves into it and feel really unhappy about doing it? But they, most people like the money or need the money.
Totally.
So, but if you had just profiled them first and delved down a little bit deeper, you'd have known if they'd have been a good leader or if they'd have been a great support to another leader.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it's not digging enough.
Not digging enough. No, taking it at face value too easily.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are some ways, like, say, use this disc profiling, but is there ways that if somebody doesn't have access to that, or just in interviews even, let's say somebody's starting off a business, if you were starting off a business and you didn't have access to that, or wasn't even sure that, what are some ways that you can help navigate that a little bit?
Well,
or do you know in many ways?
Well, one of my beliefs is how you do anything is how you do almost everything.
Yep.
Okay. So here's an example, not related to work, but for example, I have rental properties.
Okay.
So when people come to view a property that I have, I give them an application form,
Yeah.
and I'm always very nice, and I walk them to their car.
Yeah.
If their car is a junk heap full of all kinds of McDonald's wrappers, how you do anything is how you do everything. That's what my house is going to look like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm really watchful when I interview people, and I listen to the subtleties of their language, the subtleties of how they move. Here's another one. This was so much fun. This one. This came by accident. Again, how you do everything is how you do anything, right? Mm-hmm. So I like to measure proactivity. I want to see if people are going to be proactive.
Yeah.
And one day I was interviewing, I know how this came. This young lady, this young girl, she was 5. I was babysitting her for her mom.
Okay.
And I've got a phone jack plugged into the power cord and into the phone line, and the phone is sitting on a chair. This 5-year-old kid walks up to the chair and says, "I'd like to sit on this chair. What would you like me to do with the phone?" And I thought, when you're 16, I'm hiring you. So that was actually my first thought. So I thought, that's such an interesting lesson. So now when I interview people, I often put something on the chair where they would naturally sit. And I watch what they do. Do they pick it up and put it down? Do they pick it up and say, "What can I do with this?" Or do they just, like, I've had people sit on my leather folder, like literally sit on it. So I'm thinking, So I'm measuring your
Like, you couldn't even communicate, like...
like otherwise they'll be sitting at their desk. My pencil's been dull for 2 days, but I didn't want to ask anybody where to sharpen the pencil. Like that would
Well, how come you didn't get that report done?
Yeah.
Well, my computer's unplugged. Why is it unplugged? Well, there's no power. You're like...
Yeah, exactly.
Couldn't have addressed this 2 days ago.
Or why did you take 8 hours to try to figure out a simple software problem? You could have just called the helpline or asked somebody, right? But I measure it by that simple little that phone thing happened years ago, and I still use that. It is so interesting to watch how people move.
Very cool technique.
Another one that people do is, like, if there's something on the floor, when people come for an interview, like a little piece of paper, do they pick it up and say, "Oh, is this important?" or hand it to you, or do they just walk by?
Oh,
like, are they gonna?
Right.
Is it
just step on it?
Yeah, it's not my job.
Right. Oh, that's a really good one.
I watch.
That's a super good one. I heard a really good one. It was for high performing sales.
Yeah.
Or anything to do with sales, but where you want a high performer of some sort. And the guy essentially would be like, "Okay, well," they'd come in for the interview, like, "Okay, well, you come on in, but I only have a minute, so maybe just tell me a bit about yourself." And they would just go, "Oh, well, this, and this." Or maybe tell me why I should hire you. So they say whatever they say. And no matter what, he says, "Doesn't sound like you're a high performer. So thanks for coming by. And thanks for coming by.
Catch you later.
See you later," right? And then he would wait and see what they have responded. If they're like, okay. And they just leave, well, saw them. But he would wait, and eventually he would find something that was like, well, you guys just lost your best employee. Or like, well, that was the stupidest thing you guys ever done. And it happened one time. The guy essentially was like laughed at him and said, well, you just lost your best employee. And the guy's like, okay,
Come back
here. Let's talk. And I thought, I was like, that's such a brilliant way, because you can just see, and again, if they're swearing or fighting, it's okay, well, maybe you don't want that. But just the attitude and the drive.
The confidence.
The confidence. And can they handle rejection?
Yeah.
Can they handle rejection and still come back swinging and with confidence and with a positive attitude?
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really, like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna, yeah.
That's really brilliant. Yeah. And it saves them a lot of time.
A ton of time. Because can you again, in a sales, can you handle rejection? Like,
yeah. And people always say, oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like, well, let's try it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's
a really good takeaway.
But I'm going to use, I like the putting something down. That's such a cool way. And really, I'm just wondering now, like, how can you apply that to a date? If you're going on a date with somebody, how could, hey, we'll grab a seat and there's something there you put, how could you apply that to something like going on a date or in a friendship? Or is there ways that you can utilize that same idea to see what kind of person they are?
Well, even to watch, like if you're, you drop your glove as you're walking somewhere, do they pick it up?
Yeah.
Or do they just something simple?
Yeah, no, that's a really
and again, in going for a date, watch how they treat the people around them. How do they treat the waitresses?
Yeah.
How do they treat the staff, right?
That's a really
good how point. Impatient do they get, or how patient they get, or are they too accommodating and you're going, no, like stand up for yourself a little bit.
Yeah,
like,
they become the instant doorman for that's where you like a good, I would say it's like when you become the doorman and you like open up for one person and pretty soon you're like everybody's going through, you're like, well, I'm not a Walmart greeter, so like, I need to eventually cut somebody off. That's a good point. I like that.
But to just, again, just be really observant.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that is, I think, missing with a lot of people. And I think younger generation, unfortunately, have it worse to their own fault and not, because you were born with screens in front of your face.
Oh, I know. And
I wasn't born with a phone in my hand, right? I didn't get a cell phone until I was 16, 17, and it was a flip phone. And even then, it was like...
too much work.
I was like, meet you there. And then you'd meet them and then you'd do whatever. So what I'm getting at is just the screens and the technology is constantly pulling attention.
And the inability to connect with people and not to be able to have conversations or make a phone call and talk to people. It's really, and I think there's a whole big profound amount of loneliness, because people don't connect that same way anymore.
Yeah.
Like they're connecting only like primarily through screens.
Yeah, through text, through whatever.
Yeah.
So on that then, how do you, let's say you have a new person that you're in charge of and in your care, how do you connect with them that way then? With somebody new. So let's say I'm hired and I'm going to be one of the realtors you're working with. How do you take care of them? How do you show them that? And how do you build that connection? Well,
I make sure they know everybody in the group so that they're not feeling isolated. And I just check in regularly, and I'm really responsive to what their needs are and anticipatory of what their needs are going to be, so that they don't wander about aimlessly, not knowing who to ask about what. Right. So we really endeavor to have systems in place so that we anticipate their needs, so that it's being fed to them as they need it.
And that goes back to systems.
Systems set you free. Systems set you free. Yeah.
That's really good. And then in terms of like on an emotional or like a personal level, how would you connect with that person?
It depends on who the person is. I'll tell you the story about like this one fellow that used to work for me. Liked him well enough, but older generation, reasonably misogynistic. What? So sure.
Sorry, I don't know why I just laugh when I hear that.
I know. I just
everybody has that person. You're like, oh yeah, I know them. I know the person.
And I needed to talk to him sometimes, and I found out that he liked peanuts. So whenever I went to Costco, I'd buy a big tin of peanuts and put it on his desk. Yeah. So when I needed to talk to him, I'd go sit on his desk, open the can of peanuts, and we would eat peanuts together and have a conversation. Huh. Because it was a little bit of a bonding thing, right? Yeah. I met him where he was as opposed to somewhere else.
Yeah, and especially if you're his direct superior and he already has that view of women. Yeah. And that's a really beautiful strategy, because I feel like sometimes we go, okay, well, I'm this person, so you need to do this.
You need to change.
You need to change. And it's like, you can't change.
No, meet them where they are. Meet them where they are.
Yeah, I think that's so wonderful. And what a better way than sharing food. There's something primal about it.
There's something very primal. We did lots of food things because it is very primal. But this peanut thing really, really worked.
This is really big for this guy.
This is really another thing I did. Because sometimes people come into your office and they talk too long.
Yeah.
And I deliberately had the smallest office and I had no chair. Because
that's awesome. I don't know why that's so
because
good.
again, they're going to get to the point. And
Yes.
if I needed or wanted to have a longer conversation with them, I'd go to them because they had a chair.
Man, there's no chairs in here. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah,
they just
weird.
but actually, one part of my wall actually got all scuff marks because they'd lean against it.
That was the spot that everybody leaned.
Yeah.
Oh my
but,
God.
But it worked,
Totally.
and they still knew I loved them.
Yeah, and you know what? I will say, to go back to the food thing, is I've noticed this, especially with men. It's like, this is how I swear to God, this is how I fell in love with my wife now, is that it's like the looks and who you are will like get their attention, but like, how do you keep them? And I joke about this, but I'm kind of half serious. Is like, it's food.
Yeah.
You feed somebody, they keep coming, especially guys like, oh, well, you feed me. Like, this is like, so definitely anybody dealing, in a relationship or anything like that, it's like I know it sounds like cheesy and it's not the only thing, but
no, but again,
watch how powerful it is.
And if you can't share food, like if you
Yeah.
eat completely, like you've got somebody that's a fast food junkie and somebody who's a health food, like you just don't connect. Like like no matter how much physicality and all that stuff, you're gonna go like, no, we're not on the same page.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that, but it's just the idea of, like I said, you're sharing something
Yeah.
together, and I like that you took the time, as you said, to find that.
Yeah.
So that's super cool. So, want to dive into some other questions. You talked about you've had that week where you got like a terrible, it was a tough week. It was a hard week.
Yeah.
It was a super hard week. It was a kick in the junk week.
Mm-hmm.
But you said with the recent business, you haven't always had wins, and nobody ever gets wins all the time.
No.
How do you, what are some techniques you do to recover from that emotional feeling of loss? Because they say it's like, when
it's grief. It's so much grief, and there's so much I put into it. What I've really been able to do, and I'm getting close to the end of it, but I've given myself time. Like there's some things I could have, should have been maybe doing. I haven't had the emotional strength. So I just said, it's okay. I will do them later. I can do them later. That, like, one of my questions in my head often is blood spurting. Is somebody going to die if I don't do this right now?
Yeah.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to die. So it would be better if I did it now. I've given myself the grace to acknowledge I don't have the emotional strength. So then I'm okay.
like that.
And I'm okay with it. And by giving myself grace, I think I heal faster too.
Oh.
Right?
Right. No, that's super cool, because I think sometimes we take it so, and we all can, and you can take a loss can be anything from a game to a business to a business deal to a relationship to anything.
Yeah.
But you're right, giving yourself that grace and understanding that that is a part of the human experience.
Yeah.
Because if you won all the time, it's not the same.
It's a flat line. And it's the ups and the downs, the ebbs and the flows, where the excitement and the energy is, right? And the learning.
Yeah, and like you said, the grace, I think, is because we're going to experience it. So I was thinking, like, hey, if it's coming no matter what, and obviously we don't want them to be massive, but it's coming, okay, what's like a life raft there? And I think
and how can I mitigate this, or, but how can I forgive myself? Because one of the mistakes, if you want to call it a mistake that I make is I trust people quite easily. Okay. And so damn it, you're not going to trust people easily anymore. Yeah. Well, no, that's the nature of who I am. That's how I got to where I am. So if it cost me because I trusted people I shouldn't have trusted, it's the price I pay for who I am. I'm okay with that. Yeah,
and I love the certainty in that.
Yeah.
Because I've read a really good book, and it's called The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey Jr., and it's so good. And he talks about just the value of trust and how to build it and all these different scenarios. But either way, just the idea that, exactly you said, it's like when you have that, it's like, you could be getting burned even at 10% of the time.
Yeah.
But how many relationships do you have that are just so rock solid because you trust first.
Yeah.
That you know that like, and I would imagine it helps you be more successful because you're like, hey, I don't know you, but I'll trust you because I want to. Mm-hmm. And how many times
and people
that
live up to that trust.
Yeah.
They rise to meet your level of your expectations.
Yeah,
So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, some people are, not everybody's going to do that.
And that's okay, because that's a reflection of who they are, not who I am. And if I go to that level, then I'm reflecting something I don't want to be.
So. And you know what? One thing this book talked about too was extending smart trust. Mm-hmm. So a good example.
Maybe that's what I need.
Yeah, well, and he just gives the example of like if you got, let's say, burned in a business deal with a business partner, and then he talks about years later they made up and they talked. He's like, but he wanted to do business with them because he knew he was really good at this certain skill. Okay, how can I trust him again in a way that I won't get burned again, but we can still set some parameters? And that's essentially what it is. Like, I'll trust him with this thing and setting those parameters. That way it's very clear and it doesn't have the same kind of recoil as before. Maybe.
Like, there's someone that betrayed my trust and then wanted to come back into my life in a business way.
Totally, yeah.
And I thought about it for a little more than a nanosecond. I thought, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Yeah. Like, why would I go back there when I know your underbelly is of this character? Totally. So, like, no, I don't care how much you think you can offer me now or what the promises are. No.
Yeah.
Burnt me once. I'm not going to do it again.
Totally. In the book, he gave the example he gave was a friend of his, like a good friend that he's known for this long. And of course, that muddies the waters and makes it a little more complicated because you know them and all this sort of stuff. But he gives a good point of just that, you know, within even somebody that's in your care, okay, hey, I need you to be there this time. Well, they don't show up at this time. It's like, okay, like, it's a small task, but yeah, they might have broke your trust, but it was in this parameters that was time. Okay, I don't think they're going to be on time moving forward. Okay, maybe I need to adjust, or maybe we need to address this. So versus saying, I'm going to trust you just with everything, right? And just setting that like little, okay, well, we're going to give you like a little bit of trust. Here, try this.
Yeah.
It doesn't work? Okay, well, I'm okay because I'm still here, but I'm going to let you have that little space there and see what happens. And again,
give them enough rope to hang themselves. Yeah. Like, seriously, that's what I do. Like, you know, I'll let you go. And if you get too far, come back for help. But if you don't come back for help and you fall off the cliff.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, well.
Yeah. No, that's a good, again, like you said, I like what you said initially too, is that conviction in how you have trust. Yeah. And how that is maybe one of your strengths. And
it's a two-edged sword, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the funny thing with any strength, it can be a two-edged sword.
Yeah.
A good example is if you're driven, it's like awesome. But my voice says one of my superpowers. I do. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. We'll just do it.
Just get it done.
We'll just do it. And you know, whatever it is, you know, try to move through the fear and all that. I can do it, but then it's like right on the flip side, if I'm always doing. Well, now I might not have enough time to be analytical or think about things. Or to being, exactly. So, like, you can go too far that way. You can go too far with being loving and kind. Because if you're too loving and kind to somebody, you can be enabling.
Yeah.
Right? So, I think all strengths can be a two-edged sword.
And it's developing the awareness of what the other edge is.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's like, okay, here's how, that's too far. Maybe I need to... Okay, right. I need to like counter that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you are coaching now. And how do you grow? How have you actually, more personally, but how have you grown these businesses authentically? Because I feel like sometimes when you have an idea and you're like this and you want to share it, but it can come off as being unauthentic. But how do you continue to do going from venture to venture and being authentic in it?
Just because I am. I don't know. Just because I am. Just because I believe in it.
Right.
Like if I don't believe in it. Like I once had a job I just hated because I didn't believe in it.
Right.
And it was so hard. So I do believe in it. And there's not everything I like about everything I do, but there's enough that I like. And I don't always see the end game. So I see the end game really well, but the journey has perks along the way. right? You get some joy along the way. So you're not just focused completely on the end game.
Absolutely, because I think if you
focus too much on the end game,
then you don't enjoy the process.
You don't enjoy the process, and
you
everybody
miss it.
knows it. You miss it. No, so just figure out how I can enjoy the journey. Yeah.
And I think like what you said before is the process there, and I lost my train of thought. Oh, that you believe in it.
Yeah, I believe in it. Like when I was I didn't, I could or should be retired now, but I don't know. It's kind of fun hanging around with these guys. So why wouldn't I do it, right?
Totally.
Like, so I'm not going to be good at taking doing other things that are not doing things. So this way I get to play with people that are fun, intelligent, hardworking, ambitious. It's kind of a cool buzz that I get to have every day.
I love that. So to kind of push that a little bit further, how do you know if something aligns with you, or so example, you believe in it. What is your method to being like, this aligns with me, or this, I believe in this product, this thing, this service? Like, what are some like questions you ask yourself?
Or I listen. Like, for example, Kirk, when he talked to me about wanting to do this, I went to see him with the deliberate intent of, okay, let me hear your story, Kirk. Then I'll figure out who I should refer to you, because I'm not interested in this gig.
Okay, yeah.
And I was totally disinterested.
Okay.
And then as I listened to him, I went, oh, because I say two things about Kirk always. However big you think, you got to add 1 or 2 zeros, because he thinks way bigger.
Okay.
And it's really cool to be around someone that thinks that big.
Right.
And the second thing, well, 3 things. The second thing I learned, like in listening to him and having observed him, he's completely full of integrity. So like integrity is really important to me. And as big as he thinks, with all these zeros that he thinks bigger than I do, that isn't how he measures success. He measures it by the fun he's having with the group, and they're doing it together to do bigger deals, have more fun that way. But he didn't talk about, I'm going to make X number of dollars, and we're going to beat this, and we're going to beat that, we're going to do that. No, we're going to have fun as a group, and we're going to do some really cool things. They just happen to have a lot of zeros in them. And so I thought, this sounds like a good gig. And again, for me to be around someone that thinks bigger than me is kind of fun, because I'm usually the one that thinks bigger than other people. So it makes me run a little faster.
I really like I like how he approached it too, and how he sold it, for lack of a better term. Yeah,
and he just laughs at me now. He still, he just laughs, because I was quite committed to not working for him.
No, but it's how he did it, I think, is so cool, and I want to learn from that. Is that from what it sounds like, he didn't approach you saying, I want you to make this much money and this is how much we're target. It was about the integrity, the why. His passion behind it. Yeah.
And taking care of his people.
Yeah, looking after people and the community. Yeah. So it sounded like he like kind of did this reverse thing where it's, instead of it's like, this is what we do and this is how we do it and then why. It's like, no, he went like, here's why we're doing this. Yeah. Yeah. Right? I want to create.
He went to his why first. He did, actually. That's a good way of describing it.
Yeah, which is super cool. And
because it pulls the heart, right? And if it didn't pull my heart, well, then I wouldn't have been doing it. Like if it didn't resonate, it wasn't in alignment. Yeah.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's, it's funny because I use the word align, but sometimes it's like, okay, what other word can I use? And even if just like, if it feels good, feels good in your soul, like when you close your eyes and you think about, okay, if I'm going to do that, right? No, like my stomach feels good. I'm not breathing heavy. Like I feel okay when I
sleep on it. I've learned to sleep on it. So I go to bed and think, okay, how's this going to feel for me? And if I have a restless sleep and I wake up at 4 and I'm full of anxiety, not a good idea. But if I sleep pretty good, my subconscious or superconscious mind has been working on it thinking, it's okay. Okay. But I grant myself at least that day one night of sleep.
That's, and again, hence the term sleep on it, right?
Yeah, seriously. And I never used to. I was always just too impulsive. And now I'm older and wiser.
Okay.
The sleeping, because I think, I can be pretty impulsive. It is not a good idea. Oh, well. And then how do you unwind that clock, right?
So I guess then that's probably a technique that you use to not be impulsive.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I give myself that grace.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's I like that. I'm going to call that my lifeboat. It's just like, okay, you know what? The ship's sinking. what do I need to do now? Like, I'm going down. Okay, let's pull out the lifeboat and let's sit on this and then
just
we'll be
let
okay.
it sit, because
Yeah.
there's another book called like The Body Knows, right?
I've read that. Who's that with?
I can't remember,
I know the one.
but The Body Knows. So like,
I've read that one.
listen to it, because that's
Yes.
when I've made my worst decisions, is when I've talked over top of my body.
Yeah.
When it said it was uneasy or diseasy overnight, and I said, oh well, how bad can it be? And then I drive somewhere a few days later. Oh, this is how bad it could be. Never thought of this. Oh
That's
dear.
that's so funny, because I did a podcast before and it was just talking about how to make decisions. That's one technique I do all the time. So I'm big into meditating.
Yeah.
And meditating is such a broad like spectrum, but even just for anybody, I say you can just like close your eyes and just sit is such a good practice.
Yeah.
Just do nothing.
Yeah.
But one of the techniques I do is I'll close my eyes and I'll just visualize. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's say if you're like, hey, do you want to come work for me? And I'm like, okay, well, let me think about it. And I'll spend an hour or whatever, how much time, and I'll just close my eyes, sometimes 10 minutes, and I'll just close my eyes and I'll think about it.
Yeah.
And feel like, okay, what would it be like? I'm driving into work. I got to go over here. I got to deal with this. I got to do this. And just imagine what the job is like.
Yeah.
And then how do I feel? Is my heart, do I feel like in my chest, I feel like I'm breathing shallow?
Yeah.
Does my stomach start turning? Do I feel
Or you
like
think, whoa, this could be cool.
yeah, or do I feel like, this like weight off my shoulders, and I'm like, whoa, like I feel like I'm like excited and energized, and it's a really quick,
It's a quick test.
it's a quick test just to go, oh, and if you're not sure, well then you just wait.
Yeah.
And you do it again. And
Yeah.
try it again the next day, or try it again, different scenario, or write down what both scenarios would look like. Read them
The
out
Ben
loud.
Franklin clothes. Right?
Yeah. But really, just the biggest one I found was just feeling it and just closing your eyes and sometimes it's subtle. Like, so the more you practice listening to your body, the better you get at it. As
Yeah.
you know, for some people who don't do that very often, it's probably harder. So that's why I say look for cues like, okay, well, how's my breathing? Like, am I like really shallow breathing now? Do I
Or
feel
are
my
you even
chest?
not breathing? You're just holding your breath.
That's a good point too. Yeah,
Yeah.
am I holding my breath now and I'm nervous? Am I clenching? Do I feel, my shoulders?
Ask someone around you, what's your jaw look like? 'Cause
Yeah.
people clench. It's like I have a friend that instantly sees when I'm stressed because my jaw's clenched and I don't even know it.
Yeah, exactly. So something like that. Or again, on the flip, you just feel like instant excited.
Yeah.
You feel like you can breathe. And you're like, oh, you know what? Like, that'd be kind of cool. And your brain gets going and you get creative. And, oh, I could do this and I could do this and I could do this and all these things. So it's a really easy way to test that without making a big decision.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then having to go, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that.
When I used to do business coaching,
Mm-hmm.
I used to say, okay, here's your business.
Yeah.
Let's go out here and see what this would look like. Like I was coaching a guy, this is years ago, that had a coffee business, selling coffee to businesses. You know, so
Yeah,
everybody-
distribution, yeah.
distribution. And I said, what about doing water too?
Mm-hmm.
And he would not leave his circle. He would not go. I didn't want him to go do the water. I just wanted to think about doing the water.
Yeah.
And then come back to center. Think about doing tea, come back to center. Think about this, come back to center. He would never leave his circle. His business didn't work. Like, just because you have an idea, it's just an idea. You don't need to act on it, but you need to like feel it, like you said. Just go visit it. Come
Yeah.
back. Go visit, come back. And you'll figure it out. But if you never are willing to visit it, you're never going to grow.
Totally. A good example is like, I can show you my bracelet right now and you go, oh, your bracelet's cool. It's like, what color is it? Well, it looks black, right?
Yeah.
Are you sure it's black? 100% it's black. There's no way it's not black. Well, funny enough, yeah, it is black, but there's also some silver on it.
Yeah.
But you couldn't see that because you were in that one perspective.
Yeah.
You couldn't see the other perspective.
Yes.
And that's what I found coaching is, because my wife is a life coach and I'm starting to explore some of the business coaching and just what that is. So that's what I was curious on, how you did that and what kind of results you were able to get people. I mean, obviously results are so wide and vast and different for everybody.
And sometimes they're slower to come and they learn them in hindsight.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
and again, people have to take responsibility. You can only take them to the path, and then they have to see if they're going to act on it, right?
Yep.
Or believe in it, or if their self-talk is going to keep them where they are. Like,
Yeah.
you can only own so much of it.
Totally. It's like the old saying where you can lead a horse to water, right?
Can't make them drink, right? So you just let them be. And again, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right?
Oh yeah, I've
Right.
heard that before, but
Yeah,
you're right. It
student
rings
is-
true.
Yeah, because you could say, could say all kinds of things to people, and until they believe it, they're not going to believe it.
Yeah.
Like, remember when I was at the gym and I was deadlifting? I couldn't believe I could deadlift.
Yeah, I
like
remember
that.
that.
Like I can, like me. I'm not a deadlifter, but oh boy,
And
once I eventually changed my head and I could do it.
Totally, that's a really good point. I've heard it. Dr. Joe talks about it, and he says it's like no one's. Oh, how did the saying go? I'm trying to remember it, but essentially, it's like you're only going to learn to the energy that you match with.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that right, but it's essentially what he meant was that, like, if you're in a negative mood, you're not going to learn anything, but that supports that negative position.
Yeah, and you're going to attract more of that.
And that's all you're going to, and that's all, and your brain, that's all it's going to see.
Yeah.
Because that's your reticular activating system. So it's just, it's interesting when you see these scenarios pop up that you're like, here it is. And they're like, well, no. You're like, okay, well, I guess you're going to have the same.
Yeah, like I was in that traffic jam last week going up the hill, like in the snowstorm. And like literally it took me 2 hours to get home. And I could have got annoyed. And I decided again to get curious and think about whoever's up there. I'm safe back here in traffic. So whoever's up there at the front of that, they got more problems than I do. Like, these big semis were chaining up. There'd been a nice truck that had been rear-ended and, stuff like that. So, again, keeping that perspective. I don't know where that was going, but it was going. About just being in the moment and being okay with it and seeing it from another perspective. What's going on up there? Like, I'm okay back here.
Yeah,
I may be.
Exactly. And
who can I phone and visit with while I'm in the car?
No, you know what it is, to tie back to the business, is that it's allowing for something different. Yeah. It's that, yes, I can sit here in this and I'm in a traffic jam, this sucks and this sucks and this sucks, and blame everybody. Or you can go, okay, well, like, what else could I do while I'm here? Well, I could listen to an audiobook or a podcast, or I could call somebody that I haven't called in a while, or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But like, or just stop and go, well, I'm supposed to be here and it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm safe. And it could be worse, so why not just appreciate that? Yeah. And that's what my wife calls I call it, like our cheat code is just gratitude. Yeah. It's just constantly going back to that. Yeah. Constantly going back to being grateful. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. So what would you, because we're starting to slowly wrap up, but what advice would you have for new entrepreneurs? People that are like, I want my own thing. Or rather, I don't know, or I know that I don't want to be told what to do all the time and doing things I don't believe in. And I want to start something for myself. What would be some easy, because it seems to be a theme with you, is just how can I break that down into just tiny, small steps?
And I think that would be it. Having been an entrepreneur pretty much all of my working life, and the stresses that go with that, make a call, starve to death, make a call, starve to death, right? like it's been that way, right? Yeah. And the stress that involves, and the stress it puts on yourself and health-wise. Yeah. And it can put on relationships, all kinds of relationships. I was talking to someone about that this week, and we were talking about figure out a way to take care of your basic needs. Make sure you can pay rent. Make sure that you can eat. So if you have to start your passion project on the side, you start on the side. But to go wholeheartedly into it and, quote, starve to death, is just so hard. It's so hard. And it comes at such a price. Yeah. So I think if you could go incrementally. I was talking to another friend, and he'd met a fellow that was, I don't know, pruning at the vineyard, and he did that. And he was in his 50s, and he deliberately chosen to never get married, to not have a house, not do anything else. Because he wanted to write. He wanted to be a writer. Mm-hmm. So in order to write, he didn't think he could afford a family, but he could make enough money to support himself by pruning things at a vineyard. Mm-hmm. Okay? So it was a choice he made. Yep. So that he didn't take other people with him. So back to the entrepreneurship thing. It sounds great to go into it wholeheartedly and stuff, but I think you got to take care of your basic needs first, because it's just too high of a price otherwise. And then open your reticular activating system, open your eyes to other opportunities where you could start to build it and grow it.
Absolutely. And you know what? It makes me think of the emotional stress and the emotional side of that is that, again, if you're like, okay, I'm going to be whatever, any business, you pick a business. I'm going to just dive into it full way. And there are some people that can do it and they figure
Well, if
it
they've
out.
got the financial backing, if they've got some support or some depth, but if you don't, like payday, like when you're an employee, oh yay, it's payday. When you're an employer, you're going, oh God, I just paid you 2 weeks ago. Like, give me a break here, right? Like think about that. Like that was a big emotion for me. Oh God, you guys need to be paid again.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why it's interesting hearing it from the other side.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're right. That is a big cost.
Yeah, and you're just and like some days you're just scrambling, like holy shit, tomorrow's payday.
Yeah.
Like what am I going to do? Where am I going to pull this? How am I going to pull this together?
Totally.
Right? And you can't, and I never believe you can't let your people down. Like they work, they have bills, they expect to be paid.
Totally.
That's an absolute priority.
Absolutely, yeah. And it makes me think too, like you said, is when you're just kind of moving through it slowly, there's less emotional stress.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse, and I've been there a few times as a trainer, as worrying about paying your rent, worrying about buying groceries, and I'm trying to get this client to sign up with me. And I'm worried if I can even get groceries tomorrow.
I know, and
like,
people smell the fear.
Yep.
So you don't want to have them smelling the fear. You want to be relaxed and comfortable with where you are. So even if it's slower, you're still learning. No matter what your job is you're learning things that are going to apply to whatever your business venture might be.
Absolutely. And is there any last like emotional fitness tidbits that you would give anybody that is, again, in that maybe they're halfway through, or maybe they're in their career, but they're just finding that they're just so stressed, or they run their own business and they're finding that they're just, the emotions of doing it all is a lot.
I actually think it'd be having some safe places to talk about it with someone who's been in that place or can walk and talk you through it.
Right.
The past couple, I think sort of since my the cancer thing.
Yeah.
I've been going for therapy once a month, and I go like, this is so cool. I get to talk to somebody about me for a whole hour.
Yeah.
And it's all about me, and it's been really interesting, the things that I've learned about me and the different perspective I've had. So to not just get so squirrely in your own head repeating the same things, but to have another valued outside perspective so that you can grow with it. Because it's been really, so I know it's kind of not the endorsement I expected, but get a coach, get a therapist, get somebody to talk to that you can trust and be safe with.
Totally. I've mentioned it lots in this podcast, but I've done my own therapy work. Definitely the best money I've ever spent. Yeah. She was actually a guest on the podcast, and it was wonderful, and she did such a great job. But definitely worth the money, because you just learn so much about yourself, and you're right, see a different perspective. Because when and this is the tough part I find with it, is like sometimes you just get in your own head so much, and you don't even realize that you're in your own head. You don't
I know, and
realize,
then they say something, you go, you're kidding.
Yeah.
That's how you see it? And I'm going, whoa. Yeah. Like it's like the light comes on.
You don't realize it because you're just so ingrained in it, and you can't until somebody shows you otherwise, that, hey, you know what, that item you had actually has 2 colors, or it has 3, or whatever it is. Yeah. Just as a different perspective. Yeah. And
it doesn't need to be right or wrong, but it might shine a little light so your perspective is more full-bodied. But I think
that's a good way of putting
wish
it, full-bodied.
Had more, like I'd taken more support earlier on. Because I think it would have accelerated things, and I always like doing things fast. Yeah. But I think it's been that's been a really good experience for me.
Right. I like that you said it. It just accelerates things. Yeah. It's not that, I find especially in where we live, it's a lot of self-made people. Mm-hmm. And so, I can do it myself. And it's like, sure.
Yeah, but
how long do you want to take to do it? Yeah. Why not bring in somebody? Why not talk, consult, meet, have a therapist, anybody that's what they do. Yeah. Yeah. Right? And they like doing it. And probably, like you said before, it's going to take a lot of stress off of you. And then you can focus on, like you do with your team, is get your team to do the things they love to do and keep them doing those things that are high valued stuff. Yeah. I don't know how many times I've talked to business owners where they'll, I'm like, oh, what are you up to today? And blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, I'm cleaning the windows. And I'm going like, you're spending your time, you're cleaning your windows. Like, there's got to be other things.
Unless it's a therapy thing and you're just trying to be meditative. But
yeah, which I don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'll do that because it's helpful.
But sometimes. Like opportunity cost of your time. What does it cost you to do the windows?
Can you say that again? I like that.
Opportunity cost? What opportunity are you giving up while you're cleaning the windows. Like, for example, what opportunity
yes.
what did I accomplish yesterday by getting someone to do that Excel sheet for me instead of me screwing around for a day trying to do the Excel sheet? I got a whole lot of stuff done.
And that's a super good way of putting it. Dean Graziosi talks about he actually is property manager or owned properties, and every day for a while there, he was mow the front lawn of this multi-family, whatever. Anyway, he'd take him like 4 hours to do it. And then he was like, this is crazy. He's like, he said the exact same thing. I could pay somebody to do it. He'll happily do it.
It gives them a job.
And then he can go do something else that's worth more money.
Yeah, that's exactly how I think.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's a really brilliant way to
Even
put it.
with
Like,
my
flip
kid-
it. How much money is it costing you to do that?
Yeah, with my kids when they're little, I'd say, like, you guys gotta set the table and unload the dishwasher and stuff, because if I'm doing all that stuff, I'm not making the money that's going to take us to Disneyland.
Yeah.
Opportunity cost.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, it just. Sorry, you're not the high value. You're not the high value tasks. There's the high value people here right now. You're the kids learning how to set the table.
Totally, but we do the same thing. It's like, okay, if we're gonna make dinner, then you guys can set the table and clean up, do the dishes and stuff, because I can,
They're learning skills, but also it's time. It's time. Opportunity cost.
And that's exactly what I used to tell them too. It's like, okay, well, if you don't, then I have to, and you want to hang out with me after. And it's like, okay, well, that means if we have an hour to hang out, if we all do it, or I have 10 minutes and 15 minutes if I do it by myself.
Yeah.
So what do you guys want to do?
Figure it out.
Yeah. And then they go, oh, okay. And then they get it, and it helps create a unit.
Yeah. Very much helps create a unit.
And
working together.
And that sounds like what you're doing here with Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Is really focusing on that unit and creating a lot of cohesiveness, which is so wonderful to hear, because a lot of times you don't, right? They say bad word travels fast, a good word travels slow. So it's rare that you hear of units that are functioning well and that people know their job, know their roles, and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's very cool.
It's not all roses, but
Of course.
It's growing, and we're learning and accepting each other and figuring out each other's strengths more and more every day. So
yeah, and that takes, like you said,
it takes awareness.
It takes awareness and conversation and willingness.
Mm-hmm. And giving, again, like you said before too, like giving compliments, like recognizing people's successes and strengths.
Yep, that's something that it's shocking how many people won't.
I know.
And I'm like, it's like the easiest way to build
and
somebody
people
up.
think they're giving their power away when they give a compliment. No.
It's like, I've built teams before and with trainers and stuff like that. And I'm like, why not build them up? Because isn't that your job as a leader, is to see them rise?
Yeah.
And
do you out of a job so you can go do another job?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So awesome. This was amazing. There's a lot.
Fun.
We got a lot in here. I know I learned a bunch. I'm sure other people are going to learn a bunch. And thank you so much for being on the episode. If there's any way people want to reach out to you, is that something that you're open to?
Sure, totally.
How can they reach out to you?
Oh, Chamberlain Property Group or Camino Consulting is what my consulting is, because I've done a few Caminos, which is a whole other topic. But.
Oh, okay. That's super cool. Well, thank you so much again for being on the show. We always hug it out after.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome.
This has been so good.
So thank you so much for listening to this episode. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to do that. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. Please share, because that's what helps this podcast grow and be able to reach more people. And why wouldn't you want to share something like that with somebody if you really enjoyed it? If you haven't yet, I'd also encourage you to go to lifepurposely.ca. My wonderful wife, Emily, sends out weekly content to help you improve your life and to think differently and to make wonderful changes that can impact your life forever. So thank you again for listening. I'll catch you on the next episode.